Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Harling. I'm here to go over the packet. You should have received your new packet either Tuesday or today because I know that they're dropping them off. The buses are dropping them off. So hopefully you got your new packet. So I already posted a video last week on lesson 12.1 from the packet. So please make sure you go back and find that video on YouTube. And now that you have your packet, you should be able to copy what I did for 12.1. Today, I'm doing 12.2. So let's get started. Boys and girls, here is the learning target. I can describe angles in plane shapes. Today is Thursday, May 28th, 2020. I am on lesson 12.2 in your new packet. That would be page 703, and it says chapter 12. So please find that. Again, I already did 12.1. You're going to have to go back and find it on our YouTube channel so you can fill in lesson 12.1. So today we're going to talk about angles. Now, I already talked a little bit about angles with you because I did read a book to you about certain kinds of angles. There's 3 major angles that you will see in this lesson: right angles, acute angles, and obtuse angles. These angles were discussed in a book that I uploaded on YouTube that I read to you. So let's unlock the problem. An angle is formed by 2 rays that share an endpoint. Plane shapes have angles formed by 2 line segments that share an endpoint. The shared endpoint is called a vertex. The plural of vertex is vertices. And here they give you an example. Here's 2 rays joined together at the same endpoint, and that endpoint now is called a vertex. So I started this page for you, so we're going to do it together, but you're going to fill it out too, okay? Jason drew this shape on dot paper. So here's just a shape, 4 sides. He used 4 line segments and made this shape. We know it's closed because it starts and ends at the same point. And so the question asks, how many angles are in Jason's shape? Your answer should be 4. How do I know that? Because this is considered an angle. You have 2 line segments that meet at a point. That's an angle, that's an angle, and that's an angle, okay? Because it's a corner where 2 lines are meeting. So please write 4 angles. Again, pause the video. I'm going to keep moving if you're not ready. Just pause the video. It says, look at the angles in the shape that Jason drew. So here's the shape, and they're showing you where all the angles are because we know there's 4. It says on this side of the angle, the mark means right angle. Why? Because it can have a perfect square in the corner, and it says it right there underneath. A right angle is an angle that forms a square corner. And then if we look at Jason's shape again, this is another angle. This angle is actually called an acute angle. I did talk to you about that in the book that I read to you on YouTube. They're not calling it that here. It just says some angles are less than a right angle. But boys and girls, that's basically what an acute angle is. It's less than a right angle. But the real term is acute. You will hear that term being used in 4th grade next year when you get to 4th grade, okay? And then his drawing again, his shape, up here, this angle is called obtuse. Again, I use that word in the book that I read to you on YouTube. It says some angles are greater than a right angle. So when you see an angle that's greater than a right angle, it's called obtuse. Now let's fill in the information at the bottom. I started it and you're going to finish it with me, okay? So it says, look at Jason's shape. 2 angles are right, and they show you that. Here is a right angle, and here's a right angle. So these two corners are right angles. Then one of the angles is less than a right angle, and that would be this picture. One of the angles in Jason's shape is an acute angle, which is called less than a right. And we also know that one of the angles in Jason's shape is greater than, they never give you enough room to write this stuff, right? Let me zoom in here. And the other angle in Jason's shape is greater than a right angle, and that one's called obtuse. So please fill this information in. I'll read it again. Two angles are right. One of the angles is less than a right angle, and one of the angles is greater than a right angle. That makes up the four. You have two right angles here. In this picture, you have an acute angle, and in this picture, you have the obtuse angle. So there are the four angles that make up Jason's picture. Okay, so please copy. I'll give you a few seconds. I'm gonna move on. If you're still writing, you can pause the video and then you can hit play again when you're ready. All right, now I'm going to page 704. So everybody look, everybody's going to have to find page 704, and at the top it says activity. Okay, now we can do this activity, but if you don't have straws at home, it's going to be hard. And actually, Ms. Harling doesn't have any straws right now, but I may upload this a little bit later and show you. But they're still explaining what you can do. So the materials you need are bendable straws, scissors, paper, and a pencil. It says, cut a small slit in the shorter section of a bendable straw, cut off the shorter section of a second straw, and the bendable part. Insert the slit end of the first straw into the second. So, you know, here's the deal. Ms. Harling really doesn't use plastic straws anymore unless I'm out and I'm getting takeout, because if you haven't heard, they are kind of bad for the environment. So a lot of times Ms. Harling uses paper straws, or I actually have some metal straws in my kitchen drawer. So if you have some straws at home, you can do this, because they have to be the bendable ones that kind of bend so you can sip them right to your mouth. But anyway, you're supposed to take two of them and make an angle. That's what they want you to do. They want you to feed the two together after you cut a slit into one of them, and then cut off the top of a second one, and then put them together to make an angle, so that you can practice looking at the different angles that we're going to be talking about. Right angles, obtuse angles, acute angles. So it says it right there. Make an angle with the straws you put together. Compare the angle you made to a corner of the sheet of paper. Open and close the straws to make other types of angles. So you could really do that with your fingers. Like this would be acute. This would be a right angle. And then if I just put my fingers out like this, let me hold it up here. If I put my finger, all three, those fingers have to be down. This would be considered obtuse. So let me show you again. That could be a right angle. That can be an acute angle. This can be an obtuse angle. So you could play with that with your fingers, because I actually showed you that in the book that I read to you online on YouTube. So in the space below, it says trace the angles you made with the straws. Label each as a right, less than a right, and greater than a right. Remember, I don't like saying that. I like to say right angle, obtuse angle, and acute angle. So let's go to the bottom. And then I'm going to stop for today. It says share and show. Look at the pictures. It says, how many angles are in the triangle at the right? So here's your triangle, and they want to know how many angles are there. Your answer should be 3. All right, I see 3 corners. That means there's 3 angles. Now we're going to use the corner of a sheet of paper to tell whether the angle is right, less than a right, or greater than a right. Well, I'm not going to use paper. I'm just going to use the corner of a sticky note. Okay, so now I'm going to start with number 2. Number 2, boys and girls, is a 6-sided figure. It's a hexagon. If I use the corner of a sticky note to put right in there, I know that that is not, and let me just zoom in so you can see, that is not a right angle, okay? Because it doesn't fit exactly in. You have a vertical line and a horizontal line. It fits the horizontal, but not the vertical. It's a little bit wider. So what would we call that? Obtuse. We're not going to write that whole term greater than a right angle. We're just going to write obtuse. All right. Now I'm going to go to number 3. And again, I'm going to use my sticky note to see what kind of angle is here. So when I try to put this in the corner, I know it's hard to see here, but you'll see this is definitely smaller than a right angle. So my answer should be a cute little angle. It's a little bit closed in. It's not open to a right angle. And then number 4, I can see that there's a perfect square in the corner, so I know that this is a right angle. Make sense? You know what? We will go to the next page because the next page is pretty easy. So when you're ready, after number 4, let me zoom out here a little bit. So for number 2, you should have obtuse. Number 3, acute. Number 4, right. All right, I'm moving on. Let's look at the top of this. Keep going. It says, write how many of each type of angle the shape has. Ready? How many angles are there? There's 3, and they're showing you in the picture. That's not a diamond. If you look at it on the other side, it's a square. How many are less than a right angle? None, because we know they're all right angles. How many are greater than a right angle? Well, my friends, if you look at this part, that's obtuse. If I look at this angle, that's obtuse. Those are wide. So I have 2 that are greater than a right angle, which is actually called obtuse. Number 6, how many right angles do you see? You should have said 0. There are no square that you can put in those corners. How many are less than a right angle? Well, if you look at this one, oopsie. Let's look at this one first. Look at that. Those are less, so there's 2 of them. And how many are greater? If I go from here out, that one's a little bit wider. From here out, those 2 are wider. Those are obtuse. These little ones are acute. So I see 2 that are less and 2 that are greater. Okay. Now look at number 7. How many right angles do you see? 4. You see 4 small corners that make squares. So how many are less than a right? None. How many are greater than a right? None. They're all right angles. Now let's go down to number 6. It says on your own. Use the corner of a sheet of paper to tell whether the angle is a right angle, less than a right, or greater. So look at number 8. We're not going to write that whole term. Is this a right angle, obtuse, which is real wide, or acute? This is acute. Number 9, right angle, acute, or obtuse? Well, there's a corner where there's a perfect square. Your answer should be right angle. Number 10, look at that one. It's pretty wide open. That's obtuse, big. All right, now let's do the bottom and we're done. Number 11, Analyze relationships. Write how many of each type of angle the shape has. Well, there's a perfect square in the corner, so there's one right angle, which is this one. How many are less than a right? That one and that one. Those are acute angles, so there's two of them. Are there any greater? No. Number 12. How many right angles? Pretty easy to see. You can make a perfect square in each corner, so there's 4 of them. Are there any less than a right? No. Greater than a right? No, because we took them all up. There's 4 right angles. And look at number 13. Doesn't that remind you of the one Jason made on the other page? Yep. How many right angles? 2, because we can make a perfect square in both of those corners. Whenever you can make a perfect square, it's a right angle. Less than a right angle. Yep, that one, it's acute. Greater than a right angle. That one's wide open. Yes, that's obtuse. So this one's acute and this one's obtuse. Last one. It says, describe the types of angles formed when you divide a circle into 4 equal parts. So if I take a circle and I divide it into 4 equal parts, I can make a perfect square in each of those corners, can't I? In the middle of the circle. So basically, if I'm looking at the types of angles formed when I divide the circle, I have 4 right angles. Please write 4 right angles. Okay, my friends, I am done. I did that a little quick. If you needed to pause the video, please do it. But that's basically 12.2. There is another page to do, and I'll do that tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow. I may post another video just about angles, okay? See you later. Bye.